Alright guys, you know what this video is about, the Apple event, the big giant announcements they make every single year, and of course this year was no exception, where they announced the new iPhones and anything else. So we got some big time announcements with the iPhone 8 and the iPhone X, if you haven't heard of those. So there's basically three new types of iPhones, the iPhone 8, the iPhone 8 Plus, and then this new iPhone X. So we're going to talk about that in a bit. Why don't we quickly first go through the other stuff that they announced, that we don't really care about. So Apple Watch, does anyone really care about the Apple Watch? I mean, they have a new version of it, the Series 3, and the main difference is it has cellular now, so you don't have to tether it with your phone. If you like Apple Watches, I think it would be a big deal. This would probably be a big step up. You don't even need to use your phone with it anymore. You can get calls with the same phone number. So, I mean, it's pretty neat if you're into Apple Watches. If you're like me, who thinks they're kind of dumb and they would not be useful until they have amazing multi-day battery life, well, it's not that exciting. Then Apple TV also got an upgrade to the Apple TV 4K. So now, of course, it supports 4K and HDR. So if you have a 4K TV, you can use it. And iTunes will also start having 4K movies on there. And one thing I think is really cool, actually, is if you've bought movies in HD before, you automatically get upgraded to the 4K version through iTunes. So that's really nice. Usually you have to pay like a lot more for the 4K for no reason. And also the 4K is going to cost the same as HD versions of the movie. I think that's really awesome, so props for that. And of course, with the 4K, the Apple TV is going to have a better processor, better GPU, all that, not much more to say about it. All right, now into the main event, of course, the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, and then we can talk about the iPhone X or 10 right after that, the differences. So the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus pretty much look the same as the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, although they do now have glass front and back, and they say that it has a special glass formula that's supposed to be like super durable, probably like Gorilla Glass type thing. I believe them on that. Also, another feature, the dual cameras, of course. So you got the telephoto and the wide angle, always nice. And they say they have wider color gamuts for better colors. I mean, I would hope so. Every year they make a better camera. I'd be surprised if it wasn't better. Now, one of the biggest features they talked about a lot was the studio lighting capture mode for the camera. So you know the portrait mode where it kind of analyzes the picture, gets the depth, and removes the background or blurs it. Now it actually uses some other learning technology to create a different set of lighting techniques. Even though it's just capturing with a phone camera, it's supposed to emulate a professional studio lighting setup. It looked like it was able to take pretty good photos, obviously nothing compared to a real studio, but I think it's nice that they allow you to add these different types of effects that do actually look decent and don't seem to be too much of a gimmick. And they have a new menu where you can swipe through and select the different types of captures, and they're not filters, they actually use this in real time, and it's learning, computing, or whatever to actually capture the image in such a way as opposed to just doing everything afterwards. For video, we also got more improvements. You got 4K 60 FPS. Pretty awesome. If they have a decent bitrate for that, it'd be really exciting. I think a couple years ago I was curious about the bitrate and it seemed to be pretty decent. So hopefully they now have a bigger but also optimized bitrate for 4K. And they did say that each frame of the video for 4K is going to be analyzed and will optimize where the compression will occur, where the details are, and that sort of thing. So that sounds pretty nice. Obviously, they put a lot of thought into that, especially for 4K 60 FPS. That is a lot of data. And I mean, if you don't have a lot of space on your phone, that could easily eat it up in a matter of seconds, literally. So they must have some seriously good compression going on. Also, with 1080p, they increased the FPS for the slow-mo camera to 240 FPS, so that's double the previous. That's pretty fun too. I'm a fan of slow-mo cameras. It always does result in something cool, so I like that. Next, they did a whole segment about augmented reality, which I actually think is really cool how they're implementing this into the iPhone. I don't know how useful it is, but it is cool. So they basically showed this game demo where you could actually move your phone around and be in the game, basically. So the game occurred on a tabletop and everything was rendered in real life. and that was the playing field. It wasn't like you control it and it just looks like it on the screen. I mean, obviously the augmented reality images are on the screen, but you can actually move it around in space. But the fact that they have this augmented reality dev kit is probably going to open the doors for a lot more third-party development. I know there's already apps out there for even Android where, you know, you select a piece of furniture and it'll show you kind of what it looks like in your house. I think that's super useful. It's a real application, and this will just be better because they actually purpose-built some sensors on it. It also does spatial audio, so if you are moving closer or further away from the virtual objects, it changes the audio. So a lot of cool stuff going on with this augmented reality. I don't know if I really see the utility of it yet, but I think there's potential there. Then moving on, we got a few new features such as Bluetooth 5.0. Big deal if you don't know much about that. It's got much longer range, much less battery usage. That is really awesome that they're using 5.0, although it is going to be the standard soon, so I would expect them to use that. And also LTE Advanced, so not exactly sure how that's going to affect anything, but at least they upgraded that. But one of the most exciting things for me personally that I've been waiting for in an iPhone forever, wireless charging. They finally put it in. I am super excited about this, to be honest, because I'm a big fan of wireless charging. The Google Pixel phone, I use that, I like that phone, but one of the things I really don't like is it doesn't have wireless charging. So also, here's a neat thing, they're using the QI or Qi standard, which means that you're not gonna have to use any proprietary Apple wireless charger. There's a lot of Qi chargers out there, and you can use any of them because they're all on the same standard. Also, it seems like they're trying to push this standard, and because now the iPhone supports wireless charging, obviously, they want like stores to support it. Like maybe, I don't know, you go into McDonald's and sitting on the table, maybe they'll have wireless charging pads underneath. I think I've actually seen stuff like that. Maybe even Starbucks or other stores will start doing that. We'll start to see wireless charging pads all over the place because Apple is saying, hey, you know, we support this now, and of course everyone follows Apple. So I think that'll be awesome, and I also think it means that future phones, even on Android, are not gonna dare take wireless charging out. They're gonna make sure that's in because Apple put it in, obviously. So super excited about that. It's so convenient, especially at night. You don't have to fumble around with the cable. Even if it's USB-C, you don't even have to worry about plugging it in. I like wireless charging. Okay, so finally for the 8 and 8 Plus, the sizes you get are either 64 or 256 gigabyte. Those are big jumps. I think for what is it, a difference of maybe $100, a lot of people are gonna go with the 256, probably gonna sell out pretty quickly. Why did they even bother with 64 if it's a 4 times increase? I really don't know what they're thinking here. Whatever, at least they're offering the 256. And though the prices are pretty steep, $699 and $799, pretty steep prices. Would you expect anything less? I think most people are just gonna get upgrades through their carriers, so they're not gonna have to pay the full price anyway, so no one really cares. Okay, finally on to the big story. We got the iPhone X or X, and Apple made a huge deal about this. I mean, they said it's the future of smartphones, gonna change technology for the decade. Big words. Does it live up to the hype? We're gonna talk about that. So the first thing that's different is the screen, obviously. It's an edge-to-edge screen, not exactly edge-to-edge. There is a bezel, it's very small, and it uses a Super Retina display. It's 5.8 inches, it's OLED, and it's apparently a different type of OLED, this Super Retina, that doesn't have any of the pitfalls of regular OLEDs, such as not necessarily accurate colors. So they say that this OLED is gonna be better than any other OLED, so I'll hold them to that. And also it has a much higher resolution. It's a weird resolution, so let me read it so I don't get it wrong. 2436 by 1125. So that's 458 pixels per inch. That's a very unusual resolution. I don't know where they came up with that. I'm assuming they just packed as many in as they could, which is nice. But with this edge-to-edge display, there's no more home button. Instead, you now swipe up or tap on the screen to turn on the phone. And there's also a kind of a bump at the top that kind of injects into the top of the screen. So, I mean, some people might be annoyed by that. I don't think it would bother me. I think it looks kind of cool, to be honest. And you might be wondering how you unlock the phone. There's no more Touch ID. That's the problem. So they took out the fingerprint sensor, which is, God, it was perfect until they did that. Instead, they've now replaced it with Face ID, so it's facial recognition. They did a whole thing about this, trying to say how good it is. I don't think a lot of people bought it. I really don't. I've been talking about this forever. It's not convenient. It's not better than Touch ID. Before I dig into it too much, let's talk about the tech behind it, because actually it is nice technology. It's cool tech. If they had it with the fingerprint sensor, I'd be all over it, but the fingerprint sensor is better in every way. It's got a true depth camera system, which is the thing that I think is cool. It would be nice if it was on top of the current features instead of only using this depth sensing camera. To do the facial recognition, apparently it does infrared, it uses all these types of sensors, even in the dark. You don't have to visually see any light shining on your face, but it'll still be able to light it up with infrared. So even in the dark, you can still use this Face ID, but you still have to look directly at the thing. They say it uses a neural engine machine learning to detect differences in your face. So even if you grow a beard or put on makeup or wearing a hat or sunglasses, it'll still be able to detect that it's your face. Again, I was criticizing this before about how secure can it really be if it's got to make all these compromises. Only time will tell. They say that it's extremely secure. They said that Touch ID, it's a 1 in 50,000 chance that a random person would be able to unlock it with their fingerprint. They say that with Face ID, it's a 1 in 1 million chance that a random person could walk up and unlock your phone with Face ID. Now, I don't doubt that, but I'm still going back to it's not better because it's inconvenient. It didn't look that fast. It looked actually pretty slow and like a pain. Even when they were demoing it, it looked like they had to hold up the phone, deliberately hold it in front of your face, wait a second, then it showed an unlock sign, and then you had to swipe up. So there's multiple steps going on here, and you had to look at it for a good half second before it would unlock. With the fingerprint sensor, as you're taking it out of your pocket, you have it on the sensor. It's unlocked before it even gets to your face. So you can't tell me that this Face ID is going to be more convenient, and especially if it's lying on a table or you're lying in bed, you don't want to have to orient this thing perfectly at your face. Oh, it's a joke. It's really a joke. It's such a shame. I think that if it wasn't for this Face ID thing, the iPhone X would be really awesome, but I think at this point it's just going to be better to just go with an iPhone 8. But anyway, let's continue. There are a couple more differences. So the UI is a little bit different. To get the control panel, you now swipe down from the corner, and if you want to switch between previous apps, you swipe along the bottom. So obviously with no home button, it's a lot different. So to get to the home screen, you now swipe up, and that itself didn't look too inconvenient. I think it's just a different way to get used to using the phone. I don't think it's much more difficult to swipe up or swipe down from the corner than would be to press the button. So I don't think it's that big a deal that they changed that interface, even though they had to because there's no more home button. For the camera on the back, they did add dual camera stabilization. So I don't think this is in the other models, but both camera lenses, the wide angle and telephoto, are going to have optical image stabilization, which is good. That's always good, and I think every phone should have it if it's able to. Also on the front camera, because it has that depth sensing camera, you can now take a selfie with the portrait mode. So you get the blurry background, all that, the studio portrait mode. So all the same stuff on the back camera you now get on the front camera, which is nice as well. They did improve the battery apparently. They say that it's gonna have 2 more hours than the iPhone 7. I don't know what that means. They never have said their battery specs in terms of milliamp hours, which I find really annoying. I mean, I understand that you can't really compare the difference between milliamp hours for iPhone and Android because they do optimize it so closely with their own hardware that it does last longer with the same size battery, but still, you know, why wouldn't they just tell you this whole, oh, it lasts 2 hours, and meanwhile, you have no idea what conditions are required to last those 2 hours, but either way, it is apparently bigger. And it seems like they at least didn't remove any other features from the iPhone 8. So you got the Qi wireless charging, you got waterproofing again, and the internals like the GPU and the CPU, the A11. So on the inside, it's basically the same, but on the outside, that's really the only differences. As for capacity, it's the same capacity, 64 and 256, but the prices are a lot more, starting at $999, $1,000 for the 64 gigabyte model. It's an extra $150 for the 256. So that is a steep price for a phone. I don't know how many people are gonna go for it. At least they offer it as an option. You know, I give them credit for that. They don't try to force this Face ID thing on you. Hopefully next year, I guarantee you, if they can figure out how to put the fingerprint sensor behind the OLED screen, which they are apparently trying to do, they're gonna put it in the next phone and then maybe make that the standard, which I think would be acceptable. I think that'd be perfect, obviously, but I don't see many people really liking only having to use Face ID. I don't think it's that convenient. But this time I definitely want to hear what you guys think. What do you think of this Face ID thing? Or do you really want Touch ID? Are you not even gonna touch this thing? Or would you rather get the iPhone 8? Me personally, I don't know. I'm kind of considering even getting an iPhone this year because it's got everything I want now. And with the Touch ID, it's not a problem. I'm not gonna get the iPhone X, obviously, because I don't like Face ID, but I'm gonna wait to see what the Pixel phone looks like this year, the Google Pixel 2, and then I'll make a decision maybe. But you guys also might be deciding what phone to get if you're looking to upgrade. Is this Face ID thing garbage in your opinion, or do you think it's awesome? I would personally wait till you see the reviews before buying it, but that's just me. But anyway, of course, if you guys want to keep watching, I'll put some other videos right here. You can just click on those. If you want to subscribe, I make a few new videos every week, and also be sure to enable notifications as well, or else you might never see the new videos because YouTube is not really reliable. You can also, by the way, follow me on social media sites. Those links are always in the description. So again, I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys, your opinions. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.